Thank you for having me. And thank you, Diksha ji, for the warm introduction. It's pleasure and privilege to be on Nest Bharat platform once again. Wish you all belated Happy International Women's Day. Well, 8th March is well past, but the UN session for CSW, that is Commission on Status of Women, it has just concluded only the last Thursday. And so we can say that we are pretty much in time to discuss today's topic, that is modern women's challenges and Bhartiya solution. Now, when we talk about the challenges faced by women, particularly in Bharat, it's a strange situation because ours is a nation, a land where we are worshipping the feminine since time immemorial. We call the planet Ma Vasudha, Mother Earth. For us, this country is motherland, Bharat Mata. There is not a single village in this country without a temple of a Devi. The longest festival we celebrate in all parts of Bharat is Navratri, to worship Shakti, the she energy. And that too, not once or twice, but 4 times in a year. And I feel that it is little unfortunate and sad to accept that in today's time, women's condition is not very encouraging, and sometimes she even gets second-class treatment in our country. The difficulties, the challenges women are finding in today's scenario, they are finding difficulties in finding suitable jobs. If at all she finds one, she might have to face the sexual harassment at workplace. She sometimes is not paid at par with her male counterpart. While we are racing towards becoming the 3rd or 4th largest economy in the world, it is little discouraging to note that female labor force participation rate in Bharat is lower than the other major economies. You know what? The research suggests that if just 10% increase in women employment occurs, then the per capita income, it goes high by 8% and GDP is increased by 27%. But we are not taking the optimal benefit of this demographic dividend. Approximately 46 to 70% of Indian women, they face sexual harassment at workplace, yet only 1 to 3.5% cases are getting reported. And often this happens due to fear of retaliation. In unorganized sectors, especially manual labor, women are paid 30% less than men. Inadequate nutrition is another challenge that girls and women in poor economic strata, they are facing. The male sibling, they will get milk, fruits, and at the same time, the girl child will get dal rice. If we talk about the challenges related to the safety, the 2022 data, it says that 31,516 rape cases reported, and that is equating roughly 86 cases per day. Which means while we are discussing this topic, 3 to 4 women will face the most terrible situation in their life in Bharat. 300 acid attacks are happening every year. Oh, sorry, not happening. 300 acid attacks are getting reported. around 1,000 acid attacks are occurring. As per the National Family Health Survey, 31.9%. Mind you, these are all the government figures. Whatever I'm quoting is from the government report. So 31.9% married women aged between 18 to 49, they have experienced physical, sexual, or emotional violence by their husbands. Dowry, female feticide, denial of equal opportunity for education, child marriage, denial of property rights, even though demanded by law. Many, many challenges. The question is how to deal with it. There are two options. One, flow with the flow. And second, find out unique, tailor-made solution based on age-old wisdom and the experience of millennia. So let's explore both the option one by one. So when we say resolving women's issue by flowing with flow, what does that mean? It means finding solace in contemporary thought process, which is feminism and women liberation. Now, while we are using both these theories, the feminism and women liberation interchangeably, the inception of these two theories is very interesting. Both these theories developed in two different ideological backgrounds. Feminism was developed in capitalist countries, whereas the women liberation theory, it was developed in communist countries based on Marxian ideology. Now, what happens that few women leaders, they attended the Communist International Conference, and there they brought up one issue. According to them, men and women are two classes, two different classes, and they are the true classes, the real binaries. And they said men are exploiting women, and that's why women should fight against men. But the male leaders opposed this, and they said there can be only one class division, and that is haves and have-nots. Economics should only be the basis of class division and not the gender. Because if you bring new class division inside the economic class division, then it will weaken the economic classification, and finally it will weaken the communist movement. So those women leaders, they were told to wait, and they were dismissed with the statement that communist society will automatically take care of this women's issue. You don't need to do anything separately. Now, obviously, this was objected by the women leaders. Many of them, they separated from communist movement and shook hands with feminist women. Now, look at the irony. People who denied the very existence of gender-based discrimination, they are portraying themselves as the biggest supporter of women liberation. Anyway, let's see what is the ideology called feminism or women liberation has to offer. So this book, Feminine Mystic, this book was written in 1960s by Betty Friedan, and this book is considered as the textbook of feminism. Many issues discussed in that book, they were widely propagated. I will just touch base with three major points. Betty Friedan in this Feminine Mystic said, motherhood is painful and hence it should be rejected. Secondly, she said, men exploits women, so women should revolt against men. And she said, third thing, family is patriarchal institution that exploits women, So women should rebel against it. There is a very, very famous quote by Betty Friedan where she says, women who adjust as housewives, who grow up wanting to be just housewives, are as much danger as the millions of the people who walked to their own death in concentration camp. They are suffering a slow death of mind and spirit. So here, Betty Friedan is comparing homemaker with the victim of concentration camps. Now, I want you to make a note of this, and we will circle back at the end of the talk with this quotation. So basically, the entire feminist movement is based on resist, reject, and rebel. And the very popular, this theory is very, very popular in West. So the critical question is why? Why this kind of rebellion ideas are so much popular in Western women? The answer is, throughout Western history, women were regarded as equivalent to slaves. And this is not a biased statement. One can refer to book Politics by Aristotle, or can verify various legal codes like Babylonian Code or English general law, etc. So the root of Western feminism can be traced back in the Protestant Christianity. It emerged as a response to male dominance within the Semitic culture. You will be surprised to know the few facts about the so-called developed countries. Until 19th century, women in England and America, they experienced legal death upon marriage. So they are not legally existent after the marriage. They just become Mrs. So-and-so. They didn't have citizenship right and ability to own property. American women got the right to vote in 1920. English women, they got even late, 1928. Italian women, they got voting rights in 1945. And behold, Switzerland gave voting rights to the women as late as 1971. And women got rights to vote in cantonal affairs in Switzerland only in 1990. Imagine the mindset. You will be surprised to note that Queen Victoria, she was against women's property rights. Now, isn't it obvious that feminists saw everything through the lenses of patriarchy? They perceived themselves being suppressed by men, families, society, and nature, and hence liberation from all of them, from kitchen, from men, from society, everybody, and rebel against all was deemed essential. But there was one positive aspect of the Western feminism, and that was they have identified the basic issues related to women. It's altogether a different thing that whether they are able to resolve them or not, but those issues are actually the agenda of Western feminist movement. The first issue they identified, the feminists identified, was the gender difference. The gender difference means men and women has two social statuses in the family, in the society. They have different roles to play. So that creates the ground for exploitation, and hence the agenda is gender difference should be removed. Now, while talking about gender difference, Western feminism also talk about making of gender. And they have used the tools from psychology as well as various branches of social sciences. I'm sure you must have noticed that whenever we have to complete any form, any government form or banking form, or even in admission in college, those forms, while we have to provide the demographic details in those forms, there are two questions: what is your sex and what is your gender? Now we don't understand the background of this question and we blindly fill female as the answer in the form. But feminists differentiate between sex and gender. Sex is biological, it is by nature, but gender is human need. It is social, cultural, and psychological construct. The androgyny principle developed by Sigmund Freud says that at the time of birth, the child has both male and female characteristics. And after about 2 years, the child slowly understands that I'm a boy or I am a girl. And that is because the parents repeatedly tell, or the surrounding people, they call them by that gender, or they tell that you have to wear particular kind of clothes, behave in a particular way, you have to play a particular role, etc. So just I'm touch base with this gender making. I will come back to this point once again. The second issue the feminists find was with the family. They said the family is the basis of exploitation, and it is because the nature of family is patriarchal, and the agenda is this patriarchal family system should be destroyed. The third issue is marriage. Marriage is the institute which formalizes this exploitation process, and so that also must be opposed. And hence, the agenda is, instead of traditional married couple concept, stay together or live in relationship. The fourth issue they find is pregnancy and motherhood. It is something that creates suffering to the women, and hence the agenda is to avoid pregnancy and motherhood. So double income, no kids, dink, sink, double income, no kid with a dog, all kind of various jargons. The fifth issue they have discussed is about the property rights, voting rights, etc. The next issue they found was they said that women is exploited everywhere. Women are exploited by men, society, family, nature, and this exploitation and harassment is common everywhere. And hence the agenda is to get women liberated from all these social aspects. How to get liberated? The feminist advocated revolt. Now don't ask revolts against whom. The answer is against everyone and against everything. Well, practically how much it is possible is altogether a different question, because here you see enemy in everyone. So this is the thought process. So the issues and agenda of feminist movement or women liberation movement is identified. They've gone very deep into it. They've analyzed it meticulously. But what is the solution? In general, they have given two solutions. One is women should imitate men. They should dress like men. They should go for jobs which are male dominated, etc. In short, man is the role model and you need to imitate men, which is in a way confusing, because on one hand you are criticizing men and you are saying that men are the root cause for all women's miseries, all women's sufferings, and on other hand you are imitating them. So I will leave it up to your judgment. The second solution they have provided is women have to fight against men up to such an extent that men and women relationship is source of suffering for women, and hence many feminists advocated avoiding men in life altogether, promoting sisterhood, women-women relationship under the banner of political lesbianism. Now, let's take a pause. And at this point, let's take an intellectual discourse. Let's investigate what Bharatiya Vichar has to offer. So we have a very unique perspective about gender difference, and that is going beyond gender, transcending gender. The gender device is the attribute of Maya, and therefore it is for ignorant people. Atman has no gender, and hence learned people go beyond gender. In his Mahakavya, Kumara Sambhavam, Kalidas describes important quality of Lord Shiva, and that is going beyond gender. The verse goes like this. It says, Tama Gaurava Bhedena Munishcha Pashyadishwara Stri Puman iti Anasthesha Vrittam hi Mihitam Satam. Which means Lord Shiva looked at Arundhati and the sages without any difference in the reverence. For virtuous people, this difference in gender is natural. They honor the characters alone. In Vishnu Puran, there is a beautiful story of Brahmin who was childless. So he conducted puja of Lord Vishnu, and after long years of puja, Vishnuji was pleased and asked for a varadan, asked for a boon. So Brahmin naturally asked for prajani because he was childless. So Lord Vishnu asked him if he wants a boy or a girl. The answer given by Brahmin is very important. The Brahmin said, if I will have boy, I will think that you have come to me. And if I will have a girl, I will think she is a form of Mahalakshmi. So I am okay with any gender. He had a chance to ask for a son. If the society was patriarchal or male dominated, he would have asked for boy. But he didn't have any preference. This going beyond gender was a part of our Sanskriti. And it has, this phenomena of going beyond gender. It has roots in our view of life. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad describes the creation of universe. It is said that in the beginning, there was only one, the Parama Ekam. Once the supreme existence, the Parama Chaitanya, it got a wave of thought and decided to become many and got divided into two. While describing the creation of universe, Vedas gave an example saying, Tasmad idam ardhavrugalam iva. The supreme reality got divided into two, just like two halves of a bean. And they became husband and wife. Pati cha, patni cha, abhavatam. And from them, humans came. Tata manushya ajayanta. Just like two halves of a bean, of a peanut. What an apt analogy. In human body, we can debate on the left and right. But in the two halves of a bean, who can say which one came first and which one next? Which one is more powerful and which one is less? Which one is better and which one is important? Both are equally important. And it is needless to say that to create and to sustain, both must come together. In sync with the same idea, we have another concept of Ardhanari Nateshwar. where the god is half men and half women. The next point I want to bring up is the role of women in family. In the Rig Veda, the most ancient literature of the world, there is a sukta called Vivaha Sukta. It is by Rishi Surya Savitri. In this sukta, there is a mantra which says Samragni Shwashure Bhava, which means you become the empress of your in-laws' house and lead the family. By the way, this Vivaha Sukta is still in effect. I mean, these mantras are being recited during the wedding rituals of each Hindu. But unfortunately, nobody is interested in wedding rituals. From making reels to dancing and enjoying food, we have so many other priorities, right? Anyways, now after the marriage, the Bahu, she is introduced to whole village. So she is called in a formal gathering called Sabha. And the newly wedded Bahu has to give lecture in that Sabha. Now, come on, we all know how difficult it is to speak in public, that too at totally unknown new place. But Vedic women, they used to do this. Naturally, they were not only educated, but highly qualified. Another aspect is that, and it is discussed in Western feminism too, is the unpaid labor, the daily household chores, the role of women in kitchen, who will cook the daily basis. In this area too, we see a guideline in Bhartiya scripture. Brihaspati, in one of the sutra, says men and women in the house both should cook combinedly. They should do all household work with each other's support. Not only that, but there is a concept of Stridhana in Bharatiya Vichar. The Stridhana is not dowry. It's actually in contrast with dowry. No one was allowed to touch that property or had any rights to ask for accounts. She can use it the way she wants. Till date in Bharat, we see this practice in some of the communities that they keep aside as much as 20% of their income and they hand it over to their wives and then forget about it. Nobody can ask the accounts ki paisa kahan kharch kiya. In the Anushasan Parva of Mahabharat, there is an interesting conversation between Yudhishthir and Bhishma. Yudhishthir asked Bhishma, what is the definition of Stri, a woman? The answer was the one who should be worshipped by people who wants to prosper. Next question was, who is a daughter? Answer is goddess Lakshmi personified. Who is wife? Answer is she is the best friend of her husband, consort of men, the root of punya karmas. She actually sustains entire creation. Who is mother? The answer is one upadhyay is better than 10 acharyas, one father is better than 10 upadhyayas, and one mother is better than 10 fathers. This greatness of motherhood, it is so much so celebrated in Bhartiya Vichar Parampara that it is said that Sahasram he pitur mata gauravena tirichyate, which means mother is 1,000 times more important than father. One more unique feature of Bhartiya Vichar, and it is, how to deal with the women's, apart from this one's own wife, consider all other women as mata. It is the Sanskriti. There is a beautiful story of a mother teaching her son how should he look at other women, how to behave with women. So little Subramanya is the son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. When Subramanya was young, he was very naughty and he used to harass other women in palace. So one day, all women folk, they went to Parvati and they complained about Subramanya. So goddess summoned Subramanya and asked him to look at all the women. That time, Subramanya could see only Parvati, his mother, in all of them, and he apologized for his mistake. From that day onwards, this concept of Matruvat Paradareshu has become a part of our Sanskriti. Now, one more thing. Matruvat Paradareshu is with all other women. How about one's own wife? How to behave with her? So during the Vivaha Samskar, the groom takes vow, the wedding vows, and he says, Dharmecha, Arthecha, Kamecha, Nati Charami. And this is said 3 times, which means while doing Dharma Karya, the moral duties and the righteous deeds in creating wealth, that is Artha, and while fulfilling desires, that is Kama, I will follow her. Her is wife. I will follow my wife. I will listen to her. And my friend, this is not the Vedic era. This is the wedding vows that are still in effect. It is still being performed during each Hindu wedding. Wedding is not just the ceremony for us. We call it Vivaha Samskar. If all young couples pay attention to this vow during the Vivaha Sanskara, then issues like marital rape or domestic violence, I think automatically they will find solution. Now about the higher education. There were seers during the Vedic era and they were called Rishi. Rishis were both men and women. I wouldn't call women seer as Rishika because word Rishi is beyond gender. So there are more than 30 women who contributed in Vedas. Apala, Ghosha, Gargi, Maitreyi, Surya Savitri. There is a word mentioned in Vedas. It is Didhishu, which means a man who has married a widow. That means marriage of widow was in practice. Another word in Veda is Purandri, which means a woman who is leading a well-established city, that is the queen of the city. There was a princess named Vishpala. She was a brave warrior. Once on a battlefield, she lost her leg. She got it replaced with the iron leg, fought again, and won the battle. She was princess, Kshatriya, wife of Rishi Mudgalani, was alone in the ashram once. She was there alone and some robbers, they attacked and ran away with the Gaudhan. Mudgalani immediately got all her weapons, rode on horseback, chased the robbers and got her Gaudhan, the cows, back. The another thing which is coming up recently in Western discourse is the new branch of law that is called gender jurisprudence. The legal rights of women. Long back, we have established a very well-developed gender jurisprudence. Property rights were included in it. You will be surprised to note that our criminal laws, so to say, criminal laws were discriminated. They were more in favor of women. If a woman commit any crime, she can't be thrown out of the house. Whereas for the same crime, a man can be punished severely. And the underlying thought process of this discrimination while punishing is she is Shakti. The she energy is more balanced more inclusive, more righteous. If she has done something wrong, there must be a good reason. Now, when we call her Shakti, the power, empowerment sounds paradoxical, isn't it? Okay, now let's come to patriarchy. Whether Bharatiya society was patriarchal or matriarchal, I don't know. It is the area of research. But at least there are enough examples leading to the conclusion that our society was certainly at some point of time or in some part of country matriarchal. We still see the reminiscences of matriarchal society in Kerala and in Northeast. Mudeyittu is the powerful example of matriarchal aesthetics. Mudeyittu is the theatrical performance, a kind of dance drama that is performed in Kerala. And it enacts the story of battle between goddess Kali and demon Darika. So as far as patriarchy is concerned, let me tell you that Bharatiya women are not just Mrs. So-and-so. They have their own identity, and sometimes even their husbands are known by them. Radha Krishna, Umapati, these are all male names. Huh? Janaki Nath, Sitaram. There is a very well-known Rishi, Atri. He was known by his mother, Itra's son, Atri. He dedicated one of the most important Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad, to his mother. And just on a side note, Itra was Shudra, the so-called backward class. So while I am saying this, I'm not trying to show all goody-goody or rosy picture. It is undeniable that we as women are facing various challenges which we discussed initially. It's a non-debatable fact that condition of women in Bharat is not in sync with Bharatiya Vichar Parampara. It is not in sync. But the difference between us and the rest of the world is we have a distinct background, a glorious past. And hence, it is important that we deliberate over the future path. Whether we want to flow with the flow and get the solution of our issues by embracing the Western feminism or women's liberation blindly, or we should find our own way considering our itihas, our sanskriti, our unique view of life. We need to decide ourselves that whether we want to follow a fragmented, a reactionary theory based on crass individualism, or we should find tailor-made solution to our challenges based on holistic approach. So basically, it is resist, reject, and rebel versus rectify, revisit, and retain. Instead of rejecting all, resisting everything, and rebelling against everyone, isn't it more feasible to revisit the past, retain what is best, and rectify the mistakes? I think that only is real swatantra, swatantra, our own mechanism. So, while considering the future path, most of us believe that when we talk about, how we should lead this, movement, how we can be more powerful. So, most of us, we think that if we educate the women and if women are economically self-reliant, we can resolve most of the issues. But that's not correct. Because if it would have been correct, Western countries would not have any women issues by now. So education and economic self-reliance alone will not be sufficient. We need to understand that not only about women. It is not only about women. The truth of existence is we all are interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. Hence, women's issues cannot be resolved in isolation or without making men the equal partner in bringing about the changes or the reforms. In fact, the whole society must be on the same page. For example, if the heart is weakened in a body, it's not just the problem of heart. It is the problem of entire body. The entire body is diseased. And the corrective measures like changing the lifestyle, exercising, etc. will be applied to whole body. Therefore, while contemplating on the future roadmap, it is not for women alone, but it is a road for the society. The society must take up that road so that women have the right position in it. We started our discussion with Betty Friedan's Feminine Mystic. After about 20 years, in 1981, she wrote a second book, which is less popular. And this book was named Second Stage. In that book, she takes complete 180-degree turn. After the 20 years of experience, after 20 years of the revolution, the rebellion, the revolt, the complete 180-degree turn. And in this second stage, she says four things. She says, without being mother, could I be really a woman? Secondly, she says, men and women should go together. And Friedan argued that the movement needed to stop portraying men as the enemy and instead work with them to redefine the traditional roles and balance private and public life. Family, third very important thing she says, family is an important feature for social progress. She argued that the equitable preservation of family should be done. And the book emphasizes the need for structural changes in the society, including the better daycare, flexible work schedule for women, the shared domestic responsibility between men and women, etc. And fourthly, she said, beyond legal rights. She argued for a movement beyond fighting purely for the rights. And she said, to improve the quality of life, fighting for rights it's not the right way. My friends, balancing and finding equilibrium is always challenging. It is always toll taking. And one might has to let go many things. But at the same time, the balancing act and the equilibrium, that's the most fulfilling way. Swami Vivekananda has said, one idea that I see clear as daylight, and it is that misery is caused by ignorance and nothing else. Who will give the world light? Sacrifice in the past been the law, it will be, alas, for ages to come. The earth's bravest and best will have to sacrifice themselves for the good of many, for the welfare of all. Are we ready to walk that path? With posing this question, I will end my talk and thank you so much for patient listening.